Hi, I'm Scott Davis. Welcome to New World Birth. By accessing this presentation, you're inviting me to share this information regarding our passage through this challenging and very hopeful time. This is the care and feeding of a new world age for the Gregorian date of October 1st, 2012, and one storm in the Mayan Tzolkin calendar. And we're also going to discuss Jupiter turning retrograde, Venus moving into Virgo, both Saturn and Mercury moving into Scorpio, and Mars moving into Sagittarius. Very busy. Anyway, October 1st is one Kawak, or storm, and this carries the themes of rain, wind, lightning, giver of life, the cycles of the moon, the feminine, the warmth of the home while inclement weather rages outside, purification, nourishment, compassion, emotions, and then seeing challenges as blessings, healing through the release of ego, clouds pregnant with rain followed by a flash of lightning and the release of the storm that cleanses the earth to prepare for new consciousness. This 13-day period would be an important time to focus on what is truly important in life and hold loosely to those things that are a distraction to your essence. Allow the waters of the storm Trisena to wash away false pride and rigid thinking and create fertile ground for growth of your integrated and authentic self. Astrologically, the one storm Trisena begins with Uranus and Neptune are retrograde as Jupiter is appearing to slow down and actually now is looking stopped at the opening of the 13-day period prior to appearing to move retrograde or in reverse from the perspective of the Earth. And that happens on October 1st at 16 degrees of Gemini. We'll have Jupiter beginning its retrograde or looking at as if it was moving in reverse. But the truth is, planets don't really move in reverse in their orbits, but appear to move backwards, much like being in a car that passes a slower moving car. There's a point where the slower moving car appears as if it's moving in reverse when you compare it to landmarks in the far distance. So when the one storm Trisena begins, Jupiter is stopped, and any planet that's in its stopped position is considered to be at the peak of its power. And Jupiter was the king of the gods, and this planet is about good fortune, opportunities, faith, religion, beliefs, and expansion. And then the sign it's in is Gemini, which is about communication, learning, short distance travel, stimulating the intellect. So we're going to see these themes expanded at the beginning of October, and then Jupiter enters into its retrograde cycle on the 4th, but it actually began its shadow cycle, as I've talked about this in the past, that we have 3 phases of any retrograde, and Jupiter entered into the shadow of this retrograde back in July 10th of 2012, when it crossed the point where it's going to eventually go direct at 6 degrees of Gemini. And so from the time period of July 10th to October 4th, we're going through and we're having experiences of opportunities that will actually be reviewed when Jupiter turns retrograde on October 4th. Mostly what I find with Jupiter retrograde, as with any retrograde cycle, there's a review of the past, and with Jupiter what gets reviewed are missed opportunities. When Jupiter turns direct on January 30th at 6 degrees of Gemini, we'll become aware of a change in course regarding how we're going to expand our opportunities to communicate, learn, and share the knowledge that we have acquired. And when we consider that this is during this time period of this Uranus-Pluto square that we've talked about, Jupiter in Gemini can bring like a war of words, which actually could erupt into violence. So I'd be really careful who you engage with, since we do have this Uranus-Pluto energy, which is unpredictable and certainly has a violent energy to it as a possibility, completely unexpected. But the positive aspect of this is going to be a great time to broadcast our ideas to an expansive audience regarding what we believe is the highest good. And on this chart, I actually left here in blue the last Saturn retrograde cycle because the first day of this trecena on October 1st, Saturn will be at 29 degrees of Libra, which means it's crossed this line here where it originally turned retrograde. So we are now completing a cycle that began back on November 4th of 2011, and then it moved forward, turned retrograde here on February 7th of 2012, turned direct on June 25th of 2012, and now we're crossing this line. We've wrapped up this whole cycle of the Saturn retrograde. And so on the first day of the trecena, it crosses the line and it moves into completely new territory, beyond where it originally turned retrograde. And specifically on October 5th, that's when Saturn moves into Scorpio until it will finally be moving into Sagittarius to stay in September of 2015. So we've got 3 years of this cycle. And so Saturn finishing up its journey through Libra has people trying to determine whether they want to make a deeper commitment in their relationships or cut their losses before Saturn goes into Scorpio, which that will take anything that's an annoyance and turn it into excruciating pain. And sort of the themes of Saturn and Scorpio are loss, depression, failure, fear, the shadow, betrayal, and this stuff goes really deep. So superficiality just really won't cut it with Saturn and Scorpio. What we decide now is going to have a lasting effect. And for me, knowing my strategy and authority from a human design chart has been an amazing tool for making any decision during these times of uncertainty where the consequences of choice are going to have effect for years to come. I mean, Saturn and Scorpio, 3 years. But Saturn also takes 29 years to complete an orbit. So we're talking about there could be several decades to fix some of these decisions. So we're going to have plenty of time to really understand the repercussions of any choice for good or ill. But for me, knowing that I'm making positive decisions based on my human design unique chart is an amazing tool during these times of uncertainty. And then we also have Saturn is going to be in Pluto's sign of Scorpio, and Pluto is in Saturn's sign of Capricorn. And whenever you have planets in the sign of another planet, we have what we call mutual reception between the two planets. And I haven't heard any other astrologers pointing this out, and it's probably because the Uranus-Pluto square is really overshadowing it. But it's really important because mutual reception means that Pluto and Saturn are now strengthening and supporting each other as long as Saturn remains in Scorpio. And that's the next 3 years. So when I think about Saturn and Pluto teaming up, the words karmic judgment are what come to mind. And when these planets are at 60 degrees, which is a harmonic sextile, they're really going to be at the peak of this experience. So I looked up those dates and found that the first of the 3 exact angles will be on December 26th of 2012. Well, that's just a few days after the solstice and the completion of the Mayan calendar long count on the 21st. This timing is just so interesting because many cultures celebrate holidays 3 days after the solstice because although the sun arrives at the Tropic of Capricorn on the solstice, it doesn't actually begin moving north for 3 days. So for those 3 days after the solstice, it seems as though the sun is stuck at the most southern point, which in many cultures and religions and belief systems talk about there being 3 days of darkness or 3 days in the tomb in their scriptures and oral accounts. The other two exact hits will be March 8th and September 21st of 2013 next year, which means that this is going to be a really strong force in the equinox charts of 2013. And I'm going to discuss this in more detail in the coming reports. So now let's kind of look at what's happening in much shorter periods of time. And so here are the details of the daily energy of this Trecena. October 1st is One Storm in the Tzolkin. This is about unity being experienced through recognizing the gifts in adversity, with the moon being opposed by Mercury and Saturn and supported by Venus and harmonizing with Neptune. Then day's emotional energy begins with tension between feelings and reason. And then later, this begins a time of pleasant feelings for the people that are in our environment, but also the enjoyment of food and drink. But it also cautions against overindulgence. And then we have a shifting to feeling lonely and isolated, and finally feeling great sensitivity to others' moods. And for those of us who are more sensitive, we're going to have possible psychic experiences. And then the second is Two Sun, which is duality experienced through honoring the wisdom and memories of our ancestors, with Saturn being stimulated by with Venus being stimulated by Saturn, Saturn being stimulated by Venus. They're both at this 60-degree angle to each other, which brings a day or two that really kind of focuses on our duties and our obligations and our relationships, and may include a conversation with a loved one about expectations from one another. With the Taurus moon is supported by Pluto, which brings a sense of intensity to ours and others' emotions. And this could really benefit any kind of sexual relationship. And then October 3rd, we have 3 Crocodile. This is about taking action through nurturing new beginnings. As the moon moves into Virgo and opposes Neptune. And the moon, sorry, not the moon, Venus is going to move into Virgo and opposes Neptune. And Venus in the sign of Virgo, that's the sign of Venus's fall. And this brings caution to love matters. And this is actually further emphasized with the tension from Neptune, which can bring unrealistic ideals that may lead to acute disappointment. So this is a day, this day actually has no lunar activity, so our emotions may feel grounded as the moon is in Taurus. And then the 4th is 4 Wind, which is about finding stability through communications. And that's the day that we have the Jupiter moving retrograde on the 4th. So this is happening in Gemini, the sign of communications, as I mentioned earlier. This could be a time of reviewing the past regarding mixed opportunities beginning at that time. But, you know, you can keep your focus in the present and just realize that this is an energy that's happening in the background, and we don't have to get caught up in it. On that day, the moon opposes Mars and is challenged by Neptune and Venus and stimulated by Uranus. Mostly the day's energy begins with irritability and then later shifts to daydreams and fantasies, seeming more important than reality, and then wanting to be with loved ones, and finally wanting some excitement as we experience pleasant yet restless feelings. October 5th is 5 Night, which is about being empowered through contemplating the stars, you know, checking out the astrology. And Mercury merges with Saturn in the last degrees of Libra, and then both planets move into Scorpio as though they're holding hands as they cross the line into new territory. This is a major shift as we leave Libra and its focus on relationships and balance, harmony, and move into the intensity of Scorpio's passion for depth and motives and ethics and transformation, sex, the unseen world, and our spiritual sense of purpose. These two planets waltzing into Scorpio together bring a new awareness, new information, and new purpose. They demand authenticity and they abhor superficiality. This time begins when we can no longer just skate along the surface of because our depth is being exposed and our new path that leads to our true purpose is revealed. Later, Mercury is then supported by Neptune, which stimulates our imaginations to be creative and brings deeper sensitivity to the world around us, as the Gemini moon is supported by the sun and merges with Jupiter, which brings a day that begins with a pleasant sense of being in harmony with ourselves, and then later good feelings and generosity to others. The sixth is sixth seed, and this is about moving, being in the flow through making new connections and planting new seeds, whatever those seeds are, as Mars moves into Sagittarius, which brings the energy for long distance travel and studying subjects of the higher mind. I mean, you think about this, every single one of the personal planets has made a shift during this time period. We've got Mercury changing signs. We got Venus changing signs. We got Mars changing signs. We got Jupiter turning retrograde. We've got Saturn changing signs. This is all really shifting personal information for people. This is a time when it's good to know your chart, know your astrology, because these shifts all affect us all on a personal level. And then on the 6th, we also have the Cancer moon is being supported by Saturn and Neptune, which brings introspection and daydreams. And then October 7th, we've got 7 Serpent. This is a reflection through being flexible in the Tzolkin calendar, with Mars being challenged by Neptune, which brings a few days of doubt and discouragement and feelings of inadequacy, as the moon in Cancer is supported by Mercury, harmonizes with Venus, and challenged by Uranus, and opposed by Jupiter. The day's emotional energies begin with being in touch with our feelings, and then shifts to wanting to be with our friends and loved ones, and later being careful not to be hasty and jump to conclusions, and finally feeling powerful emotions that might cause conflict in our relationships. And then the 8th, this is 8 transformation in the Tzolkin, which is about balance being experienced through letting go of the past. With the last quarter moon, this brings tension to our daily lives and potentially affecting our homes and our routines and our intimate relationships. And then on October 9th, we've got 9 Deer. This is patience experienced through serving others, with the sun being supported by Jupiter, which is one of the most positive transits. It brings really good feelings, peace, and harmony with others. And then on that day, we also have Venus being supported by Pluto, which intensifies our emotions and relationships. And many of us will feel our sexual desire is stimulated by this aspect between Venus and Pluto. And with any interaction between the goddess of love and the god of the underworld, we might be contacted by our former lovers. It's not unusual for somebody who might have been in an intimate relationship with us in the past to pick up the phone and call us, because that's really very common when we have these experiences of any angle between Venus and Pluto. On that day, we have the Leo moon is challenged by Saturn and Mercury and supported by Mars and Uranus. The day might begin with feeling lonely and out of touch with others, and then later brings the ability to positively assert ourselves, and finally has us craving emotional excitement, but is also the emotions could also overwhelm our rational thought. The 10th is 10 star. This is manifestation through being grateful for abundant relationships as Mercury harmonizes with Pluto, which awakens our passions for the mysterious. The desire to study subjects that have deeper information and regenerative healing systems are also a point that we brings attention to. Also, we have Saturn being supported by Neptune, which gives us a few days of pondering and reaching a new understanding of our incarnation and the world we chose to experience. While the moon is in Leo and in harmony with Jupiter and the sun, this is very pleasant with good feelings and congenial interactions with others. And then we have balance between our inner and outer worlds. This might be a great day to skip work and just enjoy this day with your best friend. And then, abundance with relationships, right? And then the 10th, not the 11th of October is also 11 offering. This is about resolution through appreciating all creation. And on that day, we've got the Virgo moon opposed by Neptune, stimulated by Saturn, challenged by Mars. The day's emotional energy moves from sensitivity to things, but it's a sensitivity that may not be accurate. While we would prefer to be alone in our thoughts and feelings, and then later it leads to irritability and a caution from entering into any needless disputes with people. The 12th is 12 dog. This is understanding through enjoying our family and friends, as the moon in Virgo finds support from Pluto, is stimulated by Mercury, merges with Venus, and is challenged by Jupiter. The day begins with real intense feelings and then later shifts to an increase in social interactions, with people being generally cheerful, and finally the feelings of benevolence and generosity. And then October 13th, 13 monkey. This is movement on to the next stage through creating new beginnings, as the moon makes no major aspects. So this would be a good time to rest and integrate the energy of the past few weeks. This has been an intense time. Just kind of, it's always good to kind of take a day to just let things settle and flow and get a bearing on where we are after all these planets have made changes in our personal lives. So no matter what the energies are that are affecting you during this one storm Tzolkin, take some time out to be in the flow of the planet by being in nature, watching a sunrise or a sunset, communing with the stars, being conscious of the moment through introspection, meditation, or being with somebody you love. I mean, just really being present in those experiences. Every single day we have is a blessing. No matter what the dramas are that are beckoning to distract us, we're all here giving the performance of a lifetime on the world stage. So remember, take some time out to observe the play as well as play your part in it. You are a spiritual being having a human experience. As always, I want to thank you for checking out New World Birth. The next segment of Care and Feeding of a New World Age will be on October 14th for One Road, and we'll discuss the Libra new moon, Mercury entering into its retrograde shadow cycle, so we'll have Mercury up here on the chart. And the sun will be entering in Scorpio. You can always check us out on Facebook, where I actually put out all the text of of this information on the New World Birth Facebook page, YouTube. You can find all the past videos right back to the first video. And the Mayan Magics website has a page for New World Birth. And they've got all the past testimonials from readings posted if you're curious about the experiences people have had when they've gotten a reading from me. And I invite you to email me at newworldbirth@yahoo.com if you have any questions or wish to schedule a reading. I am providing readings and wish to make this service available to the greatest amount of folks. So I've created 3 options with 3 levels of compensation. These readings are designed to provide you the information to help you navigate all these difficult times that we're going through. And at the very basic level, I'm going to look at your human design chart and help you understand how to use your individual strategy and authority in making decisions based on your unique design. That's just crucial information in my opinion. I also include 3 months of astrological transits as they relate to your natal and progressed astrology chart, along with the human design reading at the middle level, and then at the top level, the human design and astrological transit reading will be recorded and sent to you as an MP3 file that you can download to your computer. So you can listen to it over and over again. So if you've been thinking about getting a reading, please contact me because I would love to provide you a reading during these uncertain times. You'll need to either be able to call me in Maine in the United States of America or contact me on Skype to receive your reading. As always, I am deeply, deeply blessed that you've taken the time out to connect with my passion for all of these ancient mysteries and their application to our journey during this incarnation. The light in me honors the light in you. Namaste and Lakesh. And I'll see you next time. Thank you so very much. Peace.